their own feed. So I'm going to share with you the tips or the guidelines that each of us should follow when formulating our own feeds. One, when making homemade rations, it's important to do experimental trials by isolating a number of chickens, feeding them, and observing their performance. If the feed rations are right, the broilers will grow fast and the layers will increase in egg production, at least one egg every 27 hours. So it's not just about formulating your feeds and then getting the whole bunch of the ration and then giving it to your chickens. Because now you'll be doing this formulating of these feeds at home level. So you don't have a laboratory that you can start testing to see if your feed is well balanced, if there are presence of mycotoxins or anything actually which can actually compromise with your production of your chickens. So it's important that you do some trials with the feed that you formulate. If not, you can actually take it to the lab for it to be tested. For those in Lusaka, you can go to livestock services in the showgrounds. You can also go to UNZA. They can help you. For those on the copper belt, you can go to CBU. Those people can be able to help you if you're testing for feed testing. Then the second tip is farmers should be very careful with the quality of feed ingredients or raw materials. Chickens are very sensitive to feeds that contain mycotoxins, which are present in most of the raw materials. Never use rotten maize to make chicken feed. Chickens are very sensitive to mycotoxins. And this actually is something that really a farmer should be careful and wary about. So you need to make sure that that fish meal, if you go to Soweto market, that those farmers sell. And most of you people would say, no, I can actually get the fish meal from Soweto market. So that fish meal sometimes could be contaminated and could have salmonella or E. coli in it. So we should actually be aware of where we get our feed ingredients from. And the caution is, if the maize is rotten, please don't ever think of trying to cut corners and using it in your feed formulations. That would actually affect you. You might find that sometimes chicken can start dying, or if not, they can become stunted, or if not, you can lose out in terms of egg production if that feed that you formulated is for layers. Then point number 3, buy quality fish meal from reputable companies. If omena is used, the farmer must be sure of its quality. Most of the omena in open markets may be contaminated. So where do you get this omena or the fish meal? Livestock Services has, as well as Lusaka Agrovet has, as if you're on the copper belt, Swin has this fish meal. So don't go and get fish meals from Soweto market, Sokone market, as these actually may be contaminated. You might find that you bring in salmonella or E. coli on your farm. Point number 4, it's very important to mix all micronutrients, amino acids first before mixing with the rest of the feed, because these are minute. So if you should actually get the broiler premix, the amino acids such as lysine and methionine, the salt, the anticoagulants, those small feed ingredients. Then you mix them first before you mix them to the large chunk of the wheat bran, the maize bran, the soya cake, the sunflower cake, or the maize meal number 3, which you might be using to formulate your feeds. Then point number 5, for mixing, farmers are advised to use a drum mixer. Never use a shovel to mix feed because the ingredients will be unevenly distributed. So you can buy a drum that you can actually make a metal drum or a plastic drum, whatever is available in your area. Then you're going to put 2 handles side by side. You drill a hole where you put those ingredients and then try and rotate the drum to make sure that your ingredients are evenly mixed and using a shovel, which we discourage. But in extreme situations, yeah, a shovel may be used, but time has to be taken on how a lot of time needs to be spent mixing the feed and not just rushing about, just trying to actually do everything as quickly as possible. Point number 6. So point number 6 is it's easier for small scale farmers to work in groups to buy some ingredients such as premixes, amino acids, after which they can share the product according to one's contribution, because these are some that are a little bit expensive. So these are things that may be a little bit expensive on the part of a farmer, more especially if you're trying to formulate your feed for 100 chickens. I would advise that you team up, because for it to make business sense, from my own experience, is you need at least 500 broilers and above. Then if you start mixing your chicken feed, it will really make business sense than for 100. For 100 now, this is where this point comes in now. You need to
Has the presenter been cut off?
Now let us look at the ingredients and the nutrients that are used in the feed formulation. Animals, just like chickens, the way we need rest, they also need some rest or a dark period of time. So just like animals also need a balanced diet, just like a diet that you and I would want to have or to eat. So now we are going to talk about of carbohydrates are also needed in feed formulation. And carbohydrate, as we all know, are sources of energy. So these can be obtained from cereals or crops from the grass family, such as maize, millet, sorghum, and also cassava also might be used, though poisonous, which needs to be processed. The number 2, we're going to look at the protein. As we all know, protein are the building blocks of the body, or bodybuilding foods. So these can be classified or grouped into 2, which are the plant protein as well as the animal protein. So for the plant protein, this is where now the soya beans comes in, the sunflower cakes comes in, the cotton seed cake comes in. Then for animal protein, this one now the bone meal comes in, as well as the fish meal comes in. Then I've got minerals. So these minerals now can be calcium supplements that we use when formulating, for example, formulating layer feeds such as limestone, shells, or grit. We've also got phosphorus. We've also got trace minerals, such as carbon, iron, magnesium, zinc, copper, molybdenum, etc., etc. Vitamins, this can be obtained by vitamin premix. So there's a premix that we call a broiler premix, and this you can find it with livestock services as well as farm feed. They do produce these broiler premix. Then I've also got the amino acids. These are the lysine, methionine, and threonine. Then I've also got the feed additives. That's why now the enzymes come in, the antibiotics, the anticonjugants also come in. So as I said on the beginning and the onset of this discussion, that on the market, we have got 3 types of feed. We have the crumble, we have the pellet, and we have the mashed feeds. So a crumble is originated from a pellet. So the starter that you see on the market, before, there's no actually machinery that makes a crumble straightforward. So there's only a pelletizer. So every feed that is produced on the market is first produced as a mashed feed. Then after that, now it is taken into a pelletizer where now you bring in the steam that will pelletize that mashed feeds now to make those pellets that you see. Then the extra moisture will be removed and bring the moisture content to 12% that you always see on each feed bag. Why we do that at 12% is it will really help us in such a way that the feed does not go bad as quickly as possible. So it try and bring down the moisture content at 12%. So now each of these feeds that are there has got its own advantages and disadvantages. So for the pellet, we'll combine it with the crumble because the advantage and the disadvantage of a pellet feed are the same with a crumble, and the mashed feeds will remain on their own. So there we go. What are the advantages of a pelleted feed? One, reduced dust is one of them. Mostly when you're feeding, you will not have dust emissions coming from the feed because the feed is compressed into something that looks like a capsule, like ibuprofen or maybe Indoseed. Then there's reduced wastage because there'll be no feed that will be flying out of the feeders when you're feeding, mostly when you've got those poultry men who actually would want to rush to feed the chickens quickly and actually move out from the poultry house as quickly as possible and go and do other things. So there will be reduced wastage of feed. Then a pellet requires less storage space. That's the advantage that you're going to have. And then the fourth point is the heat generated during the conditioning and pelleting makes the feed more digestible by breaking down the starch. So that's the advantage of those are the advantages of pelleted feeds. So each of everything that we have comes with its own disadvantage. So disadvantage of pellet feed, one is reduced eating time and creates more boredom for the chickens. And also there's increased feed costs due to the pelleting process. Number 3, poor quality feed ingredients may be hidden in pellets. Then the other disadvantage is the overheating generation process may reduce the availability of amino acids such as lysine that may be destroyed if you overheat the pellets. We now discuss the advantages of mashed feeds. So one, the mashed feeds are easily digestible. That's one of the advantages. Then also by feeding mashed feed, that's a second advantage is by feeding mashed feed, it can also help increase fluid intake, which is very useful in summer and winter, as chickens tend to drink less of water during the winter months when it is very cold. So you look at the disadvantages of mashed feeds. Mashed feeds are harder to clear on the ground, and then it might attract pests such as rats and mice. If the disadvantage number 2, if the part can lead to unbalanced diet. So like layers, they tend to be very, very, very selective. They'll first start by eating the larger particles that they can pick in the feed. They leave away the powder, which normally contains all the minerals and the vitamins that are required for egg production and the well-being of the chicken. So for today, we'll end here. We'll continue from here now, building up on how on the next thing, such as the processes that are involved in feed formulation, such as the Pearson square method, the trial and error method, as well as the computer feed formulation method. That's what we are going to try and discuss next week. So for today, we're going to end here and going to open up the floor for questions and contributions. So if you have got a question, a contribution, please, you can just raise up your hand. Thank you.
Hello.
So Mr. iPhone will proceed with, I don't know if it's Miss or Mr. will proceed with a question, then followed by Mr. Charles for questions and contributions.
Okay, thank you. I'm a lady, actually. I will try to correct that iPhone issue. Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very well presented, clear and systematic. So it was very easy to follow. I just have a question on the, not really on feeding, sorry about that, I'm taking a bit backwards. On the issue of either an hour of darkness or some hours of darkness for the chickens to rest. For me, I've got a problem. When I switch off the light, they start to panic and climb on each other and whatever. So I don't know, what do you do in such a situation? That's the first one. And then the next question that I have is concerning the same feed, the making of the feed. When we are making the feed, do we need to calculate also in terms of like, I don't know, is there a formula? I wanted to ask, is there a formula to know the amounts in relation to the other? I don't know if you touched that, but I had moved away a bit to check on the chicks. But what is there a formula, a standard formula to calculate the amount of proteins, amount of carbohydrates, amount of these essential elements? Those were my two questions. Thank you.
So, sorry, I'm going to throw it back to the first question. I'm going to throw it back to the audience. Then after they respond, then I'm going to see if I can add on my word as well. Then the second question, if there's anyone who can help as well, they can take it over. Then I'll also add my word. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, probably to answer the first question now. Maybe the cause of panicking in the chickens, obviously, yeah, they should panic maybe for a few minutes, but on the issue of them climbing on each other and like, maybe it could be lack of heat, enough heat. Otherwise, after maybe 5 or so minutes, they should go back to normal. Yeah, because there's that panic after lights go off. But the issue of climbing on each other, it could be they are seeking warmth. So if the heat is not enough, that could be the cause. Then I also wanted to talk about the issue you had said on the quality of ingredients. We had an issue where we bought some of these ingredients, the fish meal and the like, from Soweto market. Then unfortunately we also got some meal number 3, which was, I think it was date and the like. And I think after feeding for like 2-3 days, we saw things happening in the chickens. Chickens actually started dying. They developed some paralysis in the legs and so on. So it's very important when trying to formulate the feed for yourself to get actually ingredients from reputable suppliers. Otherwise, it may be disastrous. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Charles, for that wonderful contribution. So just to add my word as well, as Mr. Charles had put it, yeah, chickens would tend to panic during the first maybe 2, 3, 5, 10 minutes. Then afterwards, it would stabilize. So what we normally do, since we are dealing with layers, is actually we create the lights. We separate them into small partitions, just in case there was an event that they would actually start stumbling on one another. We don't have any mortalities that would actually have. Then the second thing, as he has put it, which is very right, is that there is a formula that we use in calculating each and every ingredient which have not touched, which would be touched possibly next weekend. That's where we're going to start from. That's where we're going to start from, trying to build up now into the discussions. At the end of the day, at the end of the day, we should know actually how the feed itself is formulated. For those who actually wanted to see how we do it, I'll let each one of you know when I can be really free and available, so that we can do a physical process of how we start everything and into producing a mashed feed or a pelleted feed. Thank you. I'm still seeing Mr. Charles. Please, you can come in.
No, actually, that was the odd hand. That was an odd hand, admin.
Okay, so I think if there are no any more questions, I think we would actually take this discussion to the group and we can wrap up for today just here and then call it a night. Thank you so much for those who have managed to attend this meeting. Thank you.